Hey party people, Techno here, and in this video I have a pretty substantial chunk of steel for us to take a look at in the form of this Ace round body padlock. So this is one of a number of variations of the Ace round body padlock. This one with the shorter, though still substantial, hardened steel shackle with the dual ball bearing locking mechanisms there. This is part of the Series A527, as we can see here engraved on the back of this, again, pretty heavy duty hardened steel body. And if we take a look down the shackle hole there, we can probably make out a Phillips head screw that is retaining the core. Speaking of the core, we have an American style keyway here. It's a 5-pin core. We can see that from the lock with quite nice bitting. And even from the key bow here, this is very reminiscent of the American lock key bow with the Ace branding on it. In fact, a lot about this lock is very reminiscent of the American round body padlocks. Even the model number here fits pretty well within the naming convention that American uses. And I think what we have here is in fact a rebranded Ace, or I'm sorry, a rebranded American lock manufactured for Ace specifically. If that's not the case, I'd be shocked. I'd put money on it. And that similarity does extend even to the pinning in here. So we do have security pins, both serrated and spool pins within this core. And that's what we kind of want to take a look at. So we're going to see what it takes to pick this open. And then also make sure we're locked up. See what is hiding out inside that core. So with this Ace style, or I'm sorry, keep saying Ace, with the American style keyway here, we have a lot of room to move around. So while there is warding there, like we saw with the Series 1100, this doesn't really inhibit your movement throughout the core freely of even using a thicker pick like a 25 thousandths like I have in this Tron pick here. So I'm going to use a top of the keyway tensioner in 32 thousandths to tension this. And let's see what it takes to open this one up. All right, so let's just go to the back there and pin 5. Pin 5 feels like it's binding. Really subtle click out of pin 5, very subtle. Nice other small click out of pin 5. Feels like what I would, for lack of a better term, refer to as a shallow click, kind of associated with a serrated pin, which if this follows the standard sort of American pinning methodology, it's going to most likely be a serrated, probably serrated spool, serrated spool, serrated. That tends to be sort of how the American locks are pinned up. And pin 5 there, actually nice click out of pin 5. Feels like it went smoothly into place there. One more with that one last push. Pin 4 is binding, but putting quite a bit of pressure on pin 4. It doesn't feel like it really wants to go anywhere, so I'm going to leave that one alone. Now we have pin 3. Pin 3 is binding, and again, those subtle little clicks, those shallow clicks. A little bit more assertive of a click there on pin 3 that time. And another. And now it feels pretty kind of afraid of oversetting that if I force it anymore. So I'm kind of going to leave it where it is. Pin 2. Pin 2 is binding as well. Or maybe not. I might have actually overset pin 2. So I'm going to release some tension there. Let me check if anything fell down. 5 feels good. 4 is in its place. 3, good. 2, okay, let's move past 2 because I do think I overset that one. Pin 1 is binding. Nice click out of pin 1. Felt some movement on the core there. And another nice solid click out of pin 1. And one very authoritative click out of pin 1, which leads us to an open. All right, now we can gut this and we can see if this holds true to, again, the kind of American practice, American as in the lock, not the a country, but the American practice of pinning this up in sort of that serrated spool, serrated spool, serrated spool kind of fashion. So let's undo this screw here. And get the gutting tools out. So pinning tray there, our follower, tweezers, and all the other accoutrements for this practice. right, there's that Phillips head screw. Now we can drop out the retaining nut and the retaining plate, and there comes that core. And let's see if there's anything else in there. So here actually is something that is in this lock. It was also in the 1100, although I kind of neglected to call it out as it was stuck in the body of the lock. But we have these little metal plates. So what is that all about? And you can see now that there's nothing else down there other than the actuator itself. And this actually gets to the heart of the matter of why that metal plate is there. So this metal plate is meant to be positioned such that it fits over the tailpiece like that. The reason for this is because of the orientation of the tailpiece and the keyway and the design of the actuator. If that metal plate weren't there, it would be pretty simple to reach through with a dedicated bypass tool, which is not this pick because the pick's too wide to turn, but there are dedicated bypass tools that allow you to reach through the keyway there and just directly act on the actuator, totally bypassing the locking mechanism in the cylinder completely. So the remedy for that vulnerability that existed in this design was to shield the actuator from the keyway by using these sort of metal plates, which in turn created the impetus to create a tool that would punch a hole through these metal plates and thus allow you to use the original bypass tool to continue to reach through and act on that actuator. But in any case, these metal plates serve as a remediation for that vulnerability and are commonly found in these styles of locks now at this point in time, making the exploit of that bypass quite a bit more difficult. So I'm just going to kind of clear some space from this stuff here. Let's go ahead and get this snap ring off of this core and see if I can accomplish this without flinging it across the room. Okay, there we go. Snap ring is off. And now let's go ahead, since my follower is not precisely the right shape, I'm going to see if I can work a shim in between the core and the lock housing so I can kind of bridge the gap. Okay, good stuff. Let's grab the key. And rotate this to this position here. Work my shim into its proper position so that I can bridge that groove and gap in the tailpiece and the follower. All right, and here's where it all goes wrong. Perfect. So here is our cylinder and our key pins. Let's go ahead and dump these and take a look. What we have for pin 1 is a standard and an extremely short one. So that is a standard pin. Pin 2. Pin 2, we have a serrated key pin. And I suspect, as we'll see with these moving forward, with the presence of these serrated key pins, again, kind of a typical feature of American locks, the reason that this one is not is probably because it is too short to be serrated. I think we had one of those in the 1100 too, if I remember correctly. Pin 3 is another serrated key pin. And pin 4, serrated. And pin 5 is also quite short, but not short enough to forego that serrations or those serrations on the top. So there's our key pins, our core. Let's see what we have in the Bible. Pin 1, there's our spring. Should probably do this way. Pin 1 is a serrated pin. Pin 2, we have a serrated spool there. 3, another serrated, and 4, come on. So it looks like we have another serrated spool for pin 4, and that would leave 5. And here we have a serrated pin. So really quite in line with expectations for an American lock and all of our springs. So there we go. That is the American round body padlock in the form of an ace round body padlock. So with that, thank you very much for watching, everybody. I do truly appreciate it. And until next time, take care. I will catch you later.